I really like doing chats on here. It works. It's easy to record, you know. Yeah, I like it.
Definitely.
We actually do like a lot of groups where it's like there's a bunch of us, like a shit ton of us, you know, and so like 2 or 3 of us will be talking and then the rest will just be watching, kind of, you know.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's really nice. I bet you use it for your school, like for teaching classes.
no, not really. I haven't really done much teaching online because I just I don't love it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure with what you do, it would be
it's
extremely
so hands-on,
hard.
you know, so it's like, it's really hard to correct somebody more than one-on-one. Like I do one-on-one stuff online where I have different like hourly rates for online teaching, where it's basically private Zoom calls where you have your camera pointed at you working and I'm helping you, right? Or I'm helping in a way, like I'm teaching you something and we're talking through the project and the steps that you're going to work on, more as a consultation. But I don't as a whole do like group stuff, because there's no way for me effectively to make sure that you're not doing it wrong, right? Like I can show you say it, but that doesn't mean you're actually going to do it correctly. And
right.
and that's where the teaching is actually elevated, is being able to tell when somebody's doing something right, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Well, and yeah, that's what sets you apart from a YouTube video, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You know, if they just wanted to hear a voice, they could probably find pre-recorded
And there's probably
lessons.
somebody who's put a lot more like time and effort and product quality into the lesson that they're going to be giving you. I just feel like with all the balls that we're juggling right now between the school and the jewelry line and trying to teach and create new products and stuff, it's like that's a lot, where if I added recording online teaching videos to it, like there'd be no time in the day to do everything effectively.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So what all do you do? Because I know that you do sell product, because I've almost bought quite a bit of it and probably will at some point. But you have the school. Do you have a store? I mean, like what exactly do you do?
Yeah. So we can kind of like go a little like back into a quick history. Emily Marquis. I have been doing jewelry and goldsmithing since I was 18, give or take. And I started off like traditional 4-year college, teaching through college. And when I got out of school, I moved down to DC, and my uncle had just started a jewelry school down there. And I worked alongside him as he kind of built up this big community for the last, I want to say 9 years now. He started it in like late 2009, early 2010. So maybe it's been 11 years, a long time. It's a long time ago. But it started in his basement with just a couple benches. And then we kept relocating from studio to studio until we found like a home that was big enough and like the right location for the community that we'd built. And he is still operating that now. And during that time, I had a couple of like weird jobs where I was doing full-time work to pay for like health insurance and make some money and have some tools. And then I was part-time teaching. So for most of the 2010s, I was working somewhere between like 50 and 75 hours a week, kind of going between those two careers. In 2015, I got a job doing bench jewelry for a really high-end jeweler in DC. And so doing repairs and custom work and kind of anything, and lots of vintage refurbishment jobs where stuff would come in that was antique and needed to be, you know, addressed because it had been abused for years and years. and they want it to look like it used to look, you know. I don't know why in the 80s they put this gold on this platinum wedding band, you know. I know it's delicate and it's a size 4, but can we make it a 9? But that was really informative because it taught me how a lot of things are created and how a lot of stuff needs to be taken care of and what does and does not stand the test of time. And I think learning bench jewelry and repair jewelry really helped me become an independent designer because I know what I need to do in order for my work to actually last. Fixing out enough other people's stuff, you learn what goes wrong, you know?
Absolutely, yeah.
And in 2018, I left that and started being an independent jeweler, kind of running my own jewelry line alongside still teaching on a part-time level. I mean, through teaching, I probably never taught more than 20 or 30 hours a week of teaching, but that's a lot. Teaching is a lot more tiring than just working at your bench, because even though it's like physical activity, it's physical activity and mental activity and bopping around between all the students and having like your change of pace change every time you're having a conversation with a new person. Because even if you got 10 people doing the same project, they all have 10 different ways of going about it and 10 different sets of issues and 10 different ways of needing to be taught, because not everybody learns the same, right? So in case that helps, like my classroom used to be 10 students, now it's 4. But through the pandemic, we really have never gotten up to full capacity because we opened up right before the state shut down. And like that weekend, it was Saturday, we opened. Monday, the state said, no more businesses, close your businesses. So we kind of hunkered down for a few months. And in June, we started teaching, and we've taught 1, 2, and 3 people, but never have had an actual group of 4 since June. So it's been a totally different balance, learning how to teach a small group of people versus a large group of people, and the pacing. And so at the beginning of the year, Cal and I moved up to Connecticut to start our own studio. And because I'd been teaching for so long, it made a natural progression that we should also have a school. As I mentioned, the community we built in DC, my uncle is still operating. It was very, very big and robust by the time that I left. And it, you know, it's impacted by the pandemic, but it's still going strong. So when we were starting to build something here, I was like, you know, let's just start small and we'll just see how it goes. And so we've just been making jewelry, custom jewelry, and teaching kind of at will whenever somebody shows up and they're like, hey, can you teach me this? I'm like, yes, I can teach you that. Let's do it. But it's been a very funky year trying to find out what our like true rhythm is, right? Because nothing's normal. So that means no rhythm has yet been achieved in our working pattern. But basically, if anybody has a jewelry job or anybody wants to learn something, we're just going for it. And that's been very successful for us this year. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Now, the product that you sell, is that made by you? Is it made by your students? Is it kind of a group effort? How does the store play into
our
it?
Our students purely only make their own things. So my students, they pay me an hourly rate. I provide them with silver and the tools and the materials, and they're making their own stuff. Usually I have a path for what I think the project's going to look like. I have samples. If it's a private lesson, maybe there's no sample and I'm making one alongside them so they can see what things should look like. But their projects are totally their own stuff.
Sorry, the cat is like
no worries. I know my dog is roaming around here somewhere.
Yeah, the cat like wants to be involved in this. Is it mostly silver that your students work in? Do you do work in gold or platinum?
Yes, so I provide silver and stones. If my students want to do gold or platinum, they buy it at cost. So either I set them up with Rio to just buy it independently, or if they have a Stellar or Hoover and Strong account, they could buy it through there. Or if they're really an independent like hobbyist and don't have any business license and they're just taking it as a student, say they wanted to make wedding bands, then we will buy the materials at cost, either with their, and they'll just pay us for whatever it costs to buy.
Right.
So there's no upsell on getting them what they need for materials.
Are most of your students, are they professionals who are already in the jewelry industry?
No, I would say right now it's probably 60-40. Like most of our students are beginners or somebody who did it once 10 years ago and really enjoyed it, or people who maybe have a business, but it's not it's not supporting them in any way,
Sure.
It's kind of more of a hobby for them. And then we have another hunk of people who are professionals who want to continue to push themselves, and they're learning totally different things. I'm not going to teach the same thing to a beginner that I'm going to teach to somebody who's 15 years in. But that's kind of the flexibility of being a teacher at this level, is you kind of carry all that problem solving upstairs. And so when somebody goes, look, I know all this stuff, but this thing escapes me, or I've never been taught how to do this the right way. Can we do it? Or I want to start a business one day, but like, I don't know how to make this profitable, with my own management, So we kind of go through all that, depending on how people are approaching us, and problem solve from there. I think that a lot of jewelry making is engineering in that sense. It's like you have a lot of problem solving, and there's a lot of math, and there's a lot of figuring things out. I think a big part of our job is to kind of help people do that side of it all,
Right. So it's more than just the bench work. I mean, you're really helping people with their businesses or their hobby, but like the full well-rounded aspect of it.
Yeah. I mean, we have a extended study student right now who is doing 10 months with us as a replacement for her freshman year of college. She was going to be going to a jewelry school, but the idea of doing distance learning at an art college was just a joke. So her parents set her up with us for the year. And so a lot of like what we were talking about, like, she might be working on a project and she's just kind of like working along, but then like I stop her and I'm like, okay, so here's something that just happened in my business. This is the way that I realized that this could either be maximized or needed resolve. And here's what I did to fix that. She may never have that issue. She may never have that problem that needs to be figured out. But now she knows, like, oh, well, I could handle that kind of thing. We've had a talk about it. We've seen how the application comes through. So while she's here with us, she gets to see everything that we're working on and understand how we're working through it and figure out how she could apply that herself down the road, right? If I'm going and I'm watching somebody's live or I'm watching somebody's, webinar, I'm saying, hey, I'm watching this. You may not really be able to apply it right now, but it's on. You should watch it, And so a lot of my students, like, I have students who just want to pay me to set up their studios or build them, shopping lists of the tools that they need to get, in order to really have everything that they need. Or, they want me to just sit there and help them figure out, like, okay, I've got this design. I made it one time. How do I make it on repeat multiple times? How do I, figure out the material costs? So like, students have questions that aren't just, how do I file this? How do I hammer this? How do I solder this? Because once you learn those skills, then you have to start answering questions like, okay, how do I make 10 of these without wearing my fingers down, Or how do I market 10 of these if I want to sell 10, that kind of thing. And so we do a lot of work on that level.
You stay busy. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm checking my list of questions. You're giving me so much information. I absolutely love it. So I'm glad we got to talk about the school. I really want to talk about your hashtag, a chain of pace.
Yeah.
Tell me, how did you even come up with that? I love it. It's amazing. I think the industry is really, really gravitating towards it. I've seen a lot of people celebrate it. Tell me all about that.
Yeah, so it's been very exciting so far. We, when I say we, I'm talking about my husband and I. Cal, he's also a full-time goldsmith. He runs the school with me. He makes all the jewelry alongside me. So often when I'm showing Emily Marquis design stuff, or I'm showing stuff that the school is doing, that's a joint effort between the two of us. But we sell it under the the narrative of me, Emily, as like the single. But there's definitely two of us making work and shipping work and teaching students. And so there's, the we is really a two person. So Cal came up with the hashtag because he is an absolute wordsmith. And I had been talking in December about how we were very busy, and I did have all of these, things that we were up to. And I was like, but right now I'm not feeling fulfilled by any of it. I'm feeling like I'm going through the motions of stuff that I've known how to do for a very long time. I'm not feeling challenged, and I'm not feeling like I'm connecting in a way that is what I'd be happy doing. And a lot of times when you're reading about what people, when they have their niche market, so they have their audience, right? And you realize that your audience has gone in a direction that you don't really want. You've somehow become known for something that isn't what makes you happy. You have to steer the ship in another direction. So for me, I really wanted to start making more chains, and I wanted my clients to be buying more chains, and I wanted my students to pay me to teach them how to make chains. Like for me, that was like, I really like this. I would like to be doing more of this. How do I change the direction of the ship, right? So I started thinking about, okay, well, you could do a challenge, right? A self challenge just for me. And, all the time you see like the 100 earrings challenge, or the 100, whatever, the 100, drawings, or 30 days of drawing this, or post these photos for a month. And it's like, I fail those every single time I ever think about trying them. And so I realized very quickly that doing like 100 chains in 100 days was never going to happen. I was going to fail, and I was going to give up. And that seemed all too easy, like an out, right? Well, I missed day 45. I guess I should stop, So then I started thinking about, other options. And so I just decided that, 1 year from the 1st to the 31st, I was going to make 100 chains, and I was going to kind of do different variations. So some of these chains are client commissions. Some of these chains are revisiting pieces that I had done and wasn't happy with. Some of these chains are making variations of chains that I have made, but I'd never gotten around to, right? Different metals, different sizes, different combos. And so I went and I bought a bunch of chain making books. There's only 3 on the market right now. And I've just kind of been studying antique chains, and I spent a lot of time on eBay looking for pieces I've never seen before. And a lot of what this project has been is the change of pace, right? A chain of pace is a change of pace, turning my kind of trajectory into something that I really want to be focusing on, and giving everybody else that energy to do it as well. And it's not about getting anybody else to make 100 chains, and it's not about getting 100 chain clients and only selling chains for the rest of my life, but it's about kind of showing a concerted effort towards the thing that I actually do want. So I've been doing demos on different chain links. I've been doing various videos. I have friends who are getting in on it, people who are taking the opportunity to make their first chains or practice chain making. I've got my girlfriend who's doing the chain drawings. So she's been doing a lot of painting and drawing of chains because she's not a metal worker. And so it's kind of that energy, that wave that comes through where everybody goes, you know what, this is fun and there's no pressure, so I might as well try it out, right? And so we are 26 days in and I've made 7 chains. And so I think I'm doing pretty good.
Are customers commissioning you to make these chains?
Not all of them. So far, one of the chains out of 7 has been a commission and one has led to a commission, right? So one piece is like a piece that I designed because a client was asking me questions and we were working on something together. So at the end of the month, when she gets her piece, it will be finished and it'll also be kind of part of my project. And then I've got another client who reached out, who saw one of my chains, loved it, and he owns other chains of mine. And he said, well, can you make this, but in this metal? So we're making it in a different metal for him. So that's kind of the fun of it, is it's not really about, you know, only making work for the project or only making work for the clients. It's just kind of opening up the conversation for all that to happen, right?
I think a lot of jewelers don't make chains. I mean, I know that a lot do, but commonly it seems unusual. You know, there's less and less people who do it. So getting that conversation started that, you know, U.S. jewelers can make chains. Yeah, and I think it would encourage people nationwide to have that conversation with their jeweler, or to even reach out to you. You have a lot of reach on Instagram. I mean, your web presence is really building. If someone wants to place an order with you, can they just message you and say, hey, I want a chain, these are the details?
Yeah, that's actually usually how the conversation starts a lot. We have a large collection at this point. I think I've probably got 15 or 20 different chain designs that like I've made. I know what all the pricing is because I'm the kind of maniac who sits there and figures out the exact material cost for this chain in every single material that I could possibly want to make it in, and then all the length variations. So there's always like an Excel document that says, okay, this chain length in 16 inches and 18 karat is going to be this much, you know, because in my head, you know, that there's always the possibility that somebody should ask you that, you know, and my end game isn't to sell a bunch of silver chains. It's to sell a bunch of 18 and 22 karat chains one day. So like kind of working on that has been a very interesting process. But yeah, people call up all the time and they're like, I saw this. Can you do it in sterling silver? But then can you add like a little bit of gold on a few of these? And so we have a lot of variations where people mix metals and have silver that's patinated black and then yellow gold popping through that color. So that's, you know, we just, anything that somebody can come up with, we can figure out because we're making them from scratch ourselves. That's kind of a perk that you can't get when you holler at a jewelry store and you go, I love this, but I want 3 inches of it in rose gold. Can you do that? You know, like, well, I have to buy 2 chains and put them together. So, you know, you're going to have to pay for both.
Right.
Yeah.
So in addition to the chains, I mean, I know that you're trying to really focus, you know, your work on chains, but what else is it that you're trying to associate with your brand? What other kind of jewelry?
So one of our really big lines over the last couple of years has been our vintage scarab work. I probably have the largest collection of vintage scarabs in the country at this so that was like one of the big reasons why I opened this chapter was we recently closed the chapter on scarabs. And that's not to say that I'm not doing that work anymore. I'm making new designs for that line. We have projects coming in all the time for those pieces. And I'm sure we'll do a couple more like really big jobs in that department. But this last year, we did 2 really big, dreamy scarab jobs that I have been working towards for the last 3 years. And what that looked like for us was I shop for vintage gold-filled brass, sterling silver, scarab bracelets from the 1930s to the 1970s. And I buy them, you know, either broken or kind of unloved or sort of loved, but at a good price. I pull all the stones out of there because they are natural stones that have been carved. They're amethysts and bloodstones and agates and sardonyx, and they're really gorgeous, you know, pieces of rock that have kind of fallen to the wayside. And so we upcycle them and hand fabricate bold bezel settings and prong settings for them in silver and golds. And so for us, that journey started probably almost 3 years ago when I had gotten a little vintage scarabs from my boss. I found them and I said, oh, can I have these? I want to make some pendants for like me and my coworkers. And I made a set of 4 little silver bezel pendants for us. And they were a hit. Everybody loved them. I then started going, okay, well, where can I get these, right? So I started buying them online at various prices and learning the hard way that like people can sell some shit on the internet, like just plastic, and buying things that were made out of ceramics and stuff that was cracked. Or so starting to learn like the quality levels of what I was buying. And then I kind of came up with this dreamy project of this Sardonyx banded orange agate. I was calling it my bib necklace for the longest time, but now we call it the Riviere because it's actually more accurate to it's the graduated stones and everything. But what we did was I started collecting these orange banded agates. Well, if you've seen a scarab bracelet, there's usually 6 stones on it, sometimes 8, sometimes it's a brooch and it's got 6 or 8 or 10 littler stones. Sometimes it's a pair of earrings, or, you know, there's a bunch of different variations that these vintage pieces can come in. And each one only has one of each stone in it, right? So usually an affordable piece, not set in gold, is going to have 1 fancy stone and 6 or 5 crappy stones or average stones, or still beautiful but not desirable or special in any way. And if you're going to make a necklace with 30 stones in it, that means you're going to have to buy 30 bracelets. But you buy 30 bracelets and then you realize that 10 of them don't match, or they're not the right size, or they don't graduate perfectly. So then you've bought hundreds of bracelets and brooches and you have to figure out what to do with the other, you know, 90% of the stones that you're not saving up for one big fancy project. So that's when I started selling them as individual charms and pendants, and we started designing earrings and rings and all sorts of ways to kind of elevate the one single stone. And part of our selling process is any client can just reach out and go, I like green. What do you have in green? And I'm like, okay, well, we have the aventurine, we have the jade, we have the green agate, we have the banded green agate, we have bloodstone. And then I say, okay, well, we've got 8 sizes. They come in all these sizes and we can do them in 4 different metals. And so the clients really get to have that like customized shopping experience where they're picking out just the right little carved scarab stone that like speaks to them and is the color that they want and set in the metal that they want. And it's so much more personal than just going, give me a green one, you know? And so that process of selling these pieces one at a time, we were able to reinvest in growing the collection so that I could build this Sardonyx necklace. And so we got married in November and I wore this piece down the aisle, and it's all 18 karat gold bezels. And the stones range from like a little over an inch down to 8 by 6 millimeters. And they graduate from the back of the neck to the front. And as they graduate, they're hinged by little fleur-de-lis that range from like 5 millimeters to 10 millimeters. And so this whole big, bold necklace is these beautiful striped orange scarab stones. And then this really luscious 18 karat, like that just has aged so well over even a couple months. And so that project was done completely on spec. It was something I'd been dreaming about for 3 years. And it took so long to kind of get the energy going, people excited about these scarabs, to afford ourselves the bits of profit to push off into making that project without going bankrupt, right?
Is that piece for sale?
Yes, it is for sale.
It's gorgeous. I've seen
Thank
it.
you.
I
Thank you.
stared at it for like 3 minutes straight.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those things where people immediately were like, how could you possibly sell the necklace that you wore to your wedding? And I'm like, well, my husband and I are jewelers, and we made this thing that's like a billboard masterpiece, and we would love to sell it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you're
Share the joy.
that, like, I don't know who it'll sell to, but I believe that the market is there. It's just a matter of, you know, pieces like that kind of need to sit around. I think a lot of what we do, a lot of our jewelry is, we're not impulse jewelry. We're not the kind of stuff that people buy the second they see it. It's usually the stuff that they've revisited for weeks or months, or come up with a payment plan, or, you know, really kind of gone back and forth with me on deciding, because I think that they want to buy something that is really special and worth it. And what that ends up doing is, like, I just know that we've had people who are like, I've been staring at this for a year and I'm ready and I want it. Like, let's do it. You know, and so for me, that's much more valuable, because over that year, I got to know them. I got to talk to them. I got to watch their like process and the things that they like. And maybe they saw something that was similar, but by the time the year gets around, they're like, okay, well, I've seen this piece and this piece and this piece. Can we put all those together and make this like dreamy piece for me? And that's a lot of fun. That's a lot more valuable to me than just getting, you know, a bunch of small sales throughout the week and being like, oh, well, we had a great week and I have to make 15 pieces now. It's like, oh, I'd much rather wait and get to know all my clients and have like these really important sales that are so much more valuable to the both of us, you know?
Right. Absolutely. Do you do any wholesale work? Is it all direct to customer?
Yeah, at the moment it's all direct to customer. We don't do any wholesale just because I haven't found like a reason to do that yet. I think if anything, we would consider doing our scarabs wholesale. Mm-hmm. But it's tough. This last season we did, we set up a consignment situation with one of our local shop owners, because we just moved to this place. This is our first holiday in our town. And so a friend of ours who's in our merchants association, she took on a bunch of our scarabs, like 20 pieces. And so that was really successful for her and for us. And so that was like kind of our first foray, but it was definitely one of those things where like we took all the risk, and she was able to like bring it into our community, which was so helpful for us. But I'd have to figure out, like, there'd have to be a pricing restructuring. And I think once you start introducing other retailers who can put your stuff on sale and make, you know, choices just to cut their losses, like that really takes a lot of the value control away from us. And,
right.
You know, I don't know if I'm interested in doing that totally. It's one of those things where you don't know until somebody's asking you, right?
Is your market mostly local or online?
I would say online. We've got a lot of pockets of clients kind of across the country. I've got a few clients overseas who really kind of collect our stuff. And, you know, that's kind of the brilliance of being online, is you're not stuck with just, you know, who you're near. It's whoever you can access somehow. And so a lot of our work is, you know, we find clients because we're teachers, and people are following us because they're other jewelers or they're makers or they're craftspeople somehow, and they find that that's really interesting. Or we find clients who somehow have stumbled onto us completely randomly, or people that we've met in passing who've moved on in their lives to wherever, and they're like, oh, well, all my friends in this town, you know, and then all of a sudden, like, these little pockets pop up where it's like, man, there's like a lot of people in Chicago who own my stuff and I've never been there. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm going to check my list of questions. That's all very interesting. So, what are your goals? I mean, long term, like what direction are you kind of heading in with your personal sales or your company sales and the school?
So the school's the easier question. I think right now we're just kind of riding out the pandemic and enjoying the experience of it being slow and really getting our footing in this new space and this new studio and learning what our students want. We're in a location where our neighbors have been like, this is so unusual. The second that things are back to normal, you guys aren't going to know what to do with your time. You're going to be so busy and overwhelmed just because of the uniqueness of what we offer in our area. So, right now the school is like, I'm just waiting. I will find out where we're going to grow when it's time, to grow again. Sure. And then with our business, I think a lot of what we're doing is just trying to move into a place where I think one of the things I learned in the last 18 months was when to say no to a client. When to,
it's important.
Like, that job's not for me. I'm not going to make you happy, like I've got some hard and fast rules now where I just go, nope. And so I think that's been like kind of our biggest growth is being able to just say no when the job isn't right for me or the client. And then moving into a place where a lot more of our one-of-a-kind stuff is selling more directly instead of inspiring other pieces, which, like, of course I would love to just sell and make anything that anybody desires, but I would also like to have like a full collection of pieces that I came up with. I decided that was the best version of it, and then you decided that was the best version for you as well. Inherent trust between my design aesthetic and their taste. I would love for that to sync up one day fully.
I think you're heading in that direction with your client education, because it seems like you really do put a focus in your web presence on better educating people on what they're seeing and, like kind of from your perspective as a bench jeweler, as opposed to a marketer or a salesperson.
Right. Yeah. I have to just adjust real quick. My feet are numb.
Oh.
Just gonna sit on a pillow. Okay, I'm back. I have to sit next to my modem because you pay for great Wi-Fi and then you walk 10 feet away and everything
naturally
on a video call.
We have a duplex, and our best friends live in the other half of the duplex, and I am on their Wi-Fi right now because I get better internet from their house than mine.
Isn't that crazy?
It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So I also wanted to ask you, Emily, about just kind of your personal style and how you've been influenced, the type of design aesthetic that you're really drawn to and what's kind of pushed you into the niche that you have.
Yeah, I'm an absolute sucker for antique stuff.
I wouldn't have guessed.
My kind of artistic career began with sewing historical clothing. And so I'm actually like really adept at seamstress work and sewing and patterning and all that stuff. And I have a love for history, and that kind of has translated its way through my career as a jeweler. I became a jeweler because I wanted a job where I knew I could actually make a salary. That's a story I tell a lot. Is I wanted to be a painter, and my uncle was like, well, if you're going to be an artist, you should be a jeweler, because if you have a job that's affected by the economy, right? You're a painter. People don't just buy your paintings because the economy's dropped, right? They're like, oh, well, this is a luxury item. I don't need it, and they move on. But in a career where you're manipulating currency, like most jewelers are, you can have a job when things are tough because you can repair things. You can melt things down and make them into new things. There's always a market for wedding bands and memorial jewelry. And that really spoke to the sense of job security as an artist for me. When things are rough, I know that I can fall back on doing the kind of jobs that people need. And then when times are booming, I can provide the luxury goods that, you know, people want. And for me, knowing when is the right time for either of those things, you know, based on my community and other people's community, I think that that's kind of part of that ebb and flow needs to be really important, and you need to understand that. You know, I know when it's time to tell my followers, hey, like, you can send in your gold to me and I will melt it down and we can make cool things. Or when I should be pushing a $15,000 necklace, right? There's a big difference between what is happening in the world and when those two things need to be discussed. And, you know, being able to say, like, there's so many different sides to this, you know, not always is it appropriate to be, you know, pushing one over the other. So for me, I became a jeweler because that made sense. It made sense as a career, you know, for the rest of my life, as opposed to something that I wanted to do right now. And so I learned jewelry kind of from a very almost academic, like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to learn how to make it my job, as opposed to, this is my art and passion and I can't do anything but this ever again, you know. Because of that, my passion for history and the creative decorative arts, like that kind of stuff, that influences what I'm making, because I'm constantly looking at old stuff. I'm constantly researching fashion from eras ago, and anytime you look at something old, there's inherently some sort of metalwork involved, and that kind of starts to influence what you're making. So for me, almost everything that I make is somehow informed on me seeing something like that and going, oh wow, like that had such an impact, you know, and this is kind of the direction I'd like my piece to have that feeling, right? I kind of tell people all the time, like, there's nothing a jeweler's doing that hasn't been done before. Nobody is reinventing the world's second oldest profession, you know? So, you know, I think being influenced by history kind of makes sense in a way. It's like, you know, you see something and you're like, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, and all of the skills and techniques are pretty much exactly the same as they were when you made it then. So, you know, learning how to do it now is like, you know, the craftsmanship and being able to do something from scratch, that's like crazy. Yeah.
Well, it's your passion, so it definitely shows. Definitely shows. I have to ask, do you love Marquis? Or is it just your name and you're like, I guess I'll brand myself this way?
Yeah, I do not have an affinity for the Marquis shaped diamond. It just is my God-given name, and and it's one of those things where people all the time are like, did you change your name? What's your real name? Who should I make this out to? And I'm like, no, that's my name.
How lucky.
How lucky.
Born to be a jeweler.
That's something my mom, she goes, you were born to be a jeweler.
Yeah. I think that's so funny. So we're about 40 minutes in, and I'm thinking we might start wrapping up a little bit, but I want to make sure that everybody kind of has an idea. I want to get all this information. How can people reach you? How can they buy from you? How can they take classes from you? What takeaway when people read this blog post do you want them to have?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram, Emily Marquis Designs, or Marquis Jewelry Academy. Both of those are spelled Marquis. That's it.
No E.
E. The E is for the diamond. The Marquis is more of a title, I think. Yeah, those are my 2 Instagrams. I run those, and my number one compliment from clients is that I am very, very good at getting back to them quickly. I answer questions all day long. I field responses morning till night. I really try not to answer them first thing in the morning or late at night, but I do anyways, and it's just one of those things. We have a website for marquisjewelryacademy.com. That's where you can kind of read about our classes. A big thing for people who aren't local, we do take travelers. So like if you guys wanted to come to the East Coast and stay by the beach for a weekend or a week, we have class options for that. And we are in like a tourist town. So you could come, you could stay, you could eat good food, you know, when the time is right for traveling. And then on top of that, we have our Patreon set up where people can do their scholar options, which allows them to have certain hours of video conference time and kind of having me in their back pocket any and all times if they have questions. So you can find Emily Marquis Designs on Patreon and learn about kind of what we offer through that. And then we have a crap ton of our jewelry listed on Etsy because I am too busy to to make an online shopping platform that isn't run by somebody else. So if somebody was just looking for like, well, what do we have? What's the price ranges? What are my options? That would be the best place to start, is kind of checking out the Etsy page. But all of that can be found at Linktree / Emily Marquis Designs. So if you've ever been to a Linktree, you know that's linktr.ee / Emily Marquis Designs.
Awesome. So they can reach out to you for custom, they can commission you for chains or scarab jewelry or any number of things, it sounds like.
Yeah, we do bridal, we do custom jewelry, we do memorial jewelry, we do I just want this, can you make it jewelry? You can reach out and we can talk about it.
Wonderful. Well, I'll make sure that everybody knows how to get in touch with you. I have to ask, this might be totally inappropriate. How old are you? You're so young.
Yes, I'm 31.
My gosh, you've done so much.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what happens if you decide like from the get-go, you're just going to jump into it. And that's something I think I really do bring to the table, is that there are not many people my age who have been able to dip their toe into as many categories of parts of this career, right? I have done pretty much every job there is to do so far. I've learned all over the country, you know, I've met so many different people, and I've learned from people my age, people younger than me, people older than me, you know, I've worked with all these different generations in all these different fields and tasks. And so when people ask me questions, I'm really able to go, okay, well, are we having this conversation from this point of view or this point of view? And well, this is something you should know that maybe you didn't think about. And there's just not a lot of people, especially women in like the 25 to 35-year-old category, who can say like, yes, I know exactly what we're doing here. And, you know, there's, I'm not to say I'm the only one. I know that there's plenty, but there's not a lot. And I'm very fortunate to have kind of gotten to basically my 30s and go, okay, like it's all just deciding where I want to drive to from here, you know?
That's wonderful. And it's nice that your husband can participate with you. You guys are like a jewelry power couple.
Yeah. Well, Cal changed careers last November from his previous career to become a full-time goldsmith. So he actually learned how to do jewelry from my uncle and myself over the couple of years that he was living with me in DC, kind of dropping in for class here, there, workshops, you know, working on projects for, you know, birthday gifts for his family. He's got a lot of sisters, and his mom and his grandma's. And so for Cal, like it was so much learning just kind of by proxy, and then realizing that he was an artist who wasn't doing an artist's job, and that he could be a creator, like a full-time creator. And so when he was like, what do you think? I think I want to do this. I was like, let's do it, you know, change states, but we could definitely do it. And I mean, it was one of the few reasons why we chose to leave DC and move back home. The biggest reason is being near our family, being near the ocean, you know, having a new change of scenery. But it all just kind of came together with that. You know, he took that opportunity to change careers. And so this has been his first year full-time as a goldsmith was 2020. And
wow,
nailed it. So very happy with that.
Well, good for y'all. Congratulations to you on getting married.
Thank you.
And you said that was in November?
Yeah, we kept our original date. It was our 5 years anniversary.
Wow.
So we decided to still get married, and we had a nice unconventional event. So it was good. It was good. It was safe and healthy, and everybody came out clear. So you know, if anybody was thinking about postponing their wedding, I mean, have it, but do it safe.
That is awesome. Well, I'm so happy for you. I'm happy for your business success in spite of all this craziness.
Thank you.
I'm so excited about the direction that you're going. I found you because of your hashtag, A Chain of Face.
Really?
And
that's so
yes.
exciting.
Yeah. And so I found you really quickly and the school really quickly. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to like all this stuff and see if I can show up on her radar. I kind of fangirled a little bit when you messaged me.
Well,
because I think you do great work.
That's definitely, you guys will find out, like, you know, all the people who are going to watch this or read about it. Like, one of the lessons I learned last year is I try to ask everybody like more questions about themselves, ask my clients how they're doing, like, and it has nothing to do with whether or not I'm going to get a sale out of the end of it. Like,
right.
I realized very quickly that like us all being on our own and not being able to see people, and it was really important to just go, hey man, how are you? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to just talk to a stranger for a minute and like answer the question seriously? And I got to know so many people who follow us that way, just because I was just like genuinely like, how you doing? And, you know, sometimes people would be like, I'm good. And that would be it. And then some people would be like, I have had the hardest freaking week. And like, this is my life. And, you know, it just gives them an opportunity to like, feel like there's actually somebody there, you know, just because like an Instagram profile has X amounts of posts and followers and comments. It's like, well, usually there's still a human being behind that. And like, that's really important, you know. It's
absolutely,
not an
and especially in
dynamic.
this industry. I think in this industry, it's so trust is such a huge component of jewelry, and being connected to each other. It, you know, especially if people who do business together, when it comes to, you know, $10,000 and $20,000 items,
right.
You know, you want to know that person, you want to know the industry, and it definitely. It's been hard not having trade shows. It's been hard not having face-to-face communication, but I would agree with you in that I've connected with some people more and deeper because of social media and because of the limitation, like, you know, reaching out and being like, hey, let's make an effort to consciously connect with each other, you know, as opposed to just like showing up to a party and, oh, hey, how's everybody doing?
Right. Yeah. No, it's like, oh, well, did I find you at like 6 a.m, just like liking a bunch of stuff because you can't sleep, or, you know, just taking a break and you needed to walk out of your house for a little bit? I feel like so many people were just in these circumstances over the last year where it just became that much more vital to just check in, you know, with the people around us.
Definitely. And it's good to kind of have people on a rotation.
Yeah.
You know, because it's some people you're not close enough to necessarily to, you know, talk to every day, but you know, they're still important to you, you know, and you still want to feel really connected to them. Sorry, I'm walking around. I'm trying to find my charger.
Sorry, my dog just burped right in front of the camera.
You know, I didn't have the camera on and I was like, whoa, I'm not going to say anything about that.
What you missed was a 100-pound golden retriever taking up the entire screen because he wanted to get rubbed. This is Captain, and he's our shop dog.
Of course. Oh, what a sweetie. What a cutie. Oh my gosh, that dog is so sweet. I had to plug in my phone.
Yeah.
So I moved. Well, Emily, so what I'm thinking I'm going to do with this is I will transcribe the interview and maybe kind of take certain pieces out and try and highlight certain things for a blog post.
Yeah.
If you're okay with it, I'm more than happy to share the whole video too. If that's
yeah,
okay
yeah,
with
yeah.
you.
That's fine with me. That's
Awesome.
why I wanted to make sure it got recorded, because I think that these are all really, not to toot my own horn, but I think that having recordings available to people are really important, because
Yes,
people want to see.
As someone who watches
that.
all the recordings, yes, seminars and webinars and interviews. I'm a total like YouTube hound for like GIA's knowledge sessions, and I listen to podcasts and stuff. So yeah, like this is exactly the type of interview that I would play in my car when I'm driving.
Yeah.
So I'd love
no,
to
and
share
I think there's so much more to be learned. You miss a lot when it's just written, right?
Yeah.
Hard to for a long time I studied like how to write oral histories. Like I really enjoy transcribing like the written, like the oral storytelling into written word. And there's something that gets lost sometimes when somebody just goes, this is exactly what they said. And it's like, okay, well, I think you missed the point behind that. How they're trying to say it, right? So for me, I think that more often than not, at least hearing somebody's inflection, it's the difference between like a text and a phone call, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's more of a connection that way for sure. So
yeah,
I hope that whoever reads this and sees this feels more connected to you and seeks you out on Instagram, because I think what you're doing is a really cool thing. And I know that I'm excited to watch everything that's going to happen, especially when things reopen and blow up again. I think I'm very excited to see your success. So
thank you. Yes, we are also very excited. So, if anybody wants to stop by as soon as they're safe to travel, you can come meet Captain and take a class or just hang out. And we're looking forward to it.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Emily, for taking time to talk with me. And I can't wait to post this and share with everyone else.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jordan. This was great.
Have a great rest of your week, and we'll be in touch. I'll message you on Instagram.
Yep, we'll talk soon. Bye.
Sounds good. Bye.